Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in with a pretty shocking statistic. Did you know that for individuals living with severe mental health conditions, the unemployment rate can hover around 80%? And that's despite the vast majority of those individuals expressing a really strong desire to work. It's a stark reality. Now, if you joined us for our previous discussion, you know we've been laying down the foundations of job development and placement within mental health rehabilitation counseling. We talked about just how absolutely critical employment is in the recovery process and the vital role counselors play in community inclusion. Today, we're taking a major step forward. We're going to break down the core career counseling theories and look at how they practically apply to individuals facing mental health challenges and systemic employment barriers. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with a quick introduction to career theories, then explore Holland's theory of choice, Super's lifespan theory, and social cognitive career theory. After that, we'll unpack vocational identity and barriers, and finally, look at the counselor's role in bringing it all together.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, an introduction to career theories. Think of career counseling theories as our conceptual blueprints. They literally help counselors figure out the exact mechanisms of how individuals choose careers, build their confidence, and make those big vocational decisions. But we have to face a fundamental truth here. Career development isn't always a straight, linear path. Life happens. For individuals with disabilities or mental health conditions, their educational or career paths can experience profound interruptions. Why? Well, it could be because of symptoms, societal stigma, trauma, psychiatric hospitalizations, or just overwhelming systemic barriers. And because of these interruptions, rehabilitation counselors really have to adapt these traditional career counseling approaches to meet the highly unique needs and lived experiences of every single client. Let's look at the first of these major frameworks.
Moving right along to Section 2, Holland's theory of choice. So this classic framework is widely known as the RESE model. It basically suggests that you're significantly more likely to experience job satisfaction and success when your unique personality matches your work environment. Makes sense, right? Holland identified 6 core personality and work environment types: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. For example, someone with really strong social interests is probably going to thrive in a helping profession, like counseling or teaching, whereas someone with artistic interests would likely prefer creative or expressive careers. So how does this actually apply to rehabilitation? Well, for individuals with disabilities, using Holland's theory helps clients explore environments that are actually compatible with them. But most importantly, it helps shift their focus away from their limitations and directly toward their unique strengths, interests, and abilities. It's a real game changer.
Next up, Section 3, we have Super's lifespan theory.
While Holland focuses heavily on the match between personality and environment, Super comes at it from a different angle. It's all about time and identity. Super believed that career development is deeply connected to our self-concept and that it occurs continuously over our entire lifespan. According to his theory, we move through distinct stages: growth, exploration, establishment, maintenance, and eventually disengagement. But here's where the rehabilitation lens becomes absolutely critical. If a mental health challenge or a disability interrupts any of these distinct life phases, the whole trajectory changes. Just imagine a person who experiences a psychiatric hospitalization during early adulthood, right smack in the middle of that exploration phase. They might need to fundamentally revisit their career exploration and identity development. Or think about an individual who develops a disability much later in life. They might need to completely reconstruct their vocational goals. Super's theory is a powerful reminder that career development is an ongoing, flexible process, allowing clients to redefine their goals no matter what life throws at them. Now for Section 4, Social Cognitive Career Theory, or SCCT for short. Let's dive into one of the most highly relevant frameworks you'll find in rehabilitation settings. This theory deals directly with belief systems and the environment. The absolute linchpin of SCCT is self-efficacy. Simply put, this is a person's belief in their own ability to succeed in specific tasks or situations. Unfortunately, for a lot of individuals with disabilities or mental health conditions, this vital belief system is often heavily diminished. Why is that? Mostly because of repeated exposure to stigma, discrimination, trauma, constant rejection, or long-term unemployment. For instance, a client living with severe depression might genuinely begin to believe they are utterly incapable of maintaining employment, even if they actually possess incredibly valuable skills and years of experience. Their self-efficacy has just been chipped away over time. And that leads us directly to the second half of SCCT, outcome expectations. The way these expectations influence decisions is massive. Think about it. A client who constantly expects failure, rejection, or workplace discrimination might simply avoid pursuing employment entirely. It's a protective mechanism. Why put yourself out there if you just expect to get knocked down? This is exactly why SCCT heavily emphasizes the need for counselors to deliberately engineer positive experiences, provide constant encouragement, and really leverage support systems. By identifying strengths and setting highly achievable goals, counselors can systematically rebuild that self-efficacy from the ground up.
All right, let's look at Section 5, Vocational Identity and Barriers.
Moving from the theoretical blueprints to reality, let's examine what individuals actually face every single day. Mental health symptoms can profoundly disrupt vocational identity, which is really just how individuals view themselves in relation to work, careers, and their future goals. When someone experiences interrupted education or long gaps in employment, they understandably feel a lot of uncertainty about their abilities in the workplace. Furthermore, actual mental health symptoms actively affect critical everyday workplace skills. We're talking about basic concentration, communication, motivation, decision-making, and stress tolerance. An individual dealing with severe anxiety might find the mere prospect of a job interview completely overwhelming. Someone battling depression may physically lack the energy and motivation to even sustain a job search. Severe mental illness can throw a wrench into long-term planning entirely. But remember, and this is the absolute key takeaway here, these challenges do not define a person's potential. With the right support, meaningful employment is highly achievable.
Now, beyond those internal symptoms, individuals also have to navigate some massive systemic barriers. One of the biggest is just straight-up stigma and discrimination from employers who hold completely inaccurate assumptions about a person's reliability or productivity. Individuals with psychiatric disabilities often agonize over whether or not to even disclose their condition out of fear of being judged. Then you have gaps in employment history due to treatment or caregiving, which can be terrifying for hiring managers to see. Add to that the physical barriers, transportation challenges, completely inaccessible workplaces, a lack of basic accommodations, and the very real, terrifying financial fear of losing their disability benefits if they return to work. It's a lot to handle. We absolutely have to talk about intersectionality here too. An individual's employment experience is shaped by so much more than just a disability. These employment challenges compound rapidly when a disability intersects with race, gender, culture, immigration status, or socioeconomic background. Even geographic location plays a huge role. For example, an individual living with a disability in a rural community might find themselves with drastically fewer vocational services or accessible employment opportunities nearby compared to someone living in a major city. Counselors literally have to look at the whole person and the entire system they operate within.
Finally, Section 6, the counselor's role.
So how do we actually apply all of this theoretical knowledge to help real people? Let's talk about the proactive role of the rehabilitation counselor in taking on these daunting barriers. Counselors act as vital guides and advocates. They don't just sit back and assess, they take action. They actively work to increase a client's self-confidence, specifically applying those SCT principles we talked about earlier. They teach practical job readiness skills. They directly advocate with employers for necessary accommodations. They connect clients to wider community resources. And above all, they promote empowerment and self-advocacy. The goal is for the client to be able to navigate their own career path long-term. Counselors also get out there in the community, collaborating with employers to tear down that stigma we discussed. To quote the framework directly, a strengths-based counseling approach focuses on abilities, resilience, interests, and opportunities rather than limitations alone. By focusing heavily on resilience and what a person can do, rather than fixating on their limitations, counselors align perfectly with recovery-oriented practice. It's this exact approach that empowers true, lasting workplace inclusion. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Consider how these theories, Holland's matching, Super's lifespan flexibility, the self-efficacy of SCT, can be used not just by professional counselors, but by all of us. How can we move beyond merely accommodating disabilities on a case-by-case basis to systematically dismantling these barriers and actually designing a workforce where every unique vocational identity can truly thrive? Think about that for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me to explore these critical concepts. And as always, keep learning.